Today I'm testing out a product from Andycine, a 4K monitor that is supposed to work great in bright daylight scenarios as well as in a studio. Let's check it out. All right, so first up, we'll do a very quick unboxing. Got your normal, looks like instructions and warranty, that kind of thing. And here's the monitor. And that's kind of cool. It's a pretty nice case. This reminds me, I have an Atomos monitor, a Ninja Flame, and it has a nice case like this as well. This is some sort of a nylon. It feels well made, and I would say this feels fairly premium. And the inside reminds me of the Atomos monitor as well. That's a good thing. So let's go right to the monitor first. All right, here is the monitor, and it's a pretty good size, and it's fairly light. I like that. And it takes Sony batteries, which is great because almost all my various electronics I use here in my studio and on my YouTube channel and just in my traditional video production work, I use a lot of Sony batteries. What else comes in the kit? Now, speaking of batteries, that's nice. It comes with an actual battery. That's great. Bunch of different cables, HD to micro, HD to mini. Got a wall charger, it looks like. Another little cable. Oh, cool, and this is a monitor arm. I actually didn't know it came with this. So this mounts onto the top of your camera. That's a cold shoe. And the monitor mounts on here, and that way it can swivel and tilt, which is a great accessory to have. Okay, this plugs into that, and that way this powers the charger. So I have to say, this kit comes with quite a few accessories, and then of course the monitor, and including a battery. And I'm assuming, since it's shipped with one battery, that this will run with one battery. It's got 2 battery slots, but I can only assume, since that's the way it's shipped, it will run with one. Just wanted to show everything it comes with here. Got the monitor, 2 HDMI cables, comes with a micro and a mini. It doesn't come with a full HDMI, which is a little bit interesting. Comes with a battery, which is really nice, and then it comes with the tilting arm and the case. The other thing it doesn't come with is a power supply for AC. Not a big deal since it comes with the battery, but it is kind of an interesting omission. I guess a lot of people use this out in the field. But based on everything you get here, this is a good value for the money. All right, I got my iPhone 12 Pro Max, and I've got an HDMI cable going into the Andycine monitor. And so now I'll turn the monitor on. You'll notice right away that I'm not getting the full screen version of Filmic Pro over here. It's getting like a screen recorder. So in Filmic Pro, you would come over here and go to Hardware and do Clean HDMI out. But you've got to reconnect this to make it work. So I'll unplug it. And now when I plug it back in, it should connect. There it is. Now it's full screen from Filmic Pro. That's a super nice feature if you weren't aware of that. It just makes it so much easier when you're shooting to see the full screen, just like a traditional camera. So now let's jump into the monitor. So the first thing I want to do though is the screen is kind of bright right now, especially for the recording I'm doing of this overview. So this is a touchscreen monitor. And so I can grab this side of the screen and I can lower the backlight. So I'm just going to bring that down around there just to make it a little more appropriate for the exposure on the camera I'm shooting with right now. So to pull up the main menu, you just double tap the screen, and then here's the menu. And the menu has all the different features you would expect on a professional monitor. Let's start here at the settings. On the top here are 3 buttons that are programmable. Right now I've got it set to F1 Zebra, F2 Focus Assist, and F3 is all waves. And I'll show what those are in just a second. Then you can set up your general overall settings down here as well. Next up is you can import LUTs into this. There's an SD card slot. If you're shooting log, you can have a LUT. It has a built-in LUT, but you can import your own custom LUTs. It actually will allow you to view HDR content. So that's really nice. It's an HDR compatible monitor. You got color temperature, and then you got your backlight mode. The backlight is for the bright outdoor viewing. This is a 2200 nit monitor, which is really nice and bright for outside. You can see it in the sun, no problem. And you've got other settings here too if you want to customize it. Brightness, contrast, saturation. I'll mention all the different waveforms and such, like the histogram. You can turn on an RGB parade. You can turn on a vector scope. Or you can turn them all on at one time, and that's a nice feature. So you've got your RGB parade, your wave, and your vector scope, and then you have an image here that's shrunken down so you can still see what you're shooting. And then you have another row here of different things that you can do regarding how you're viewing the image. And I like several of these. You can flip the monitor vertical or horizontal, depending on how you've got it rigged on your camera. Sometimes you might have it upside down or sideways, what have you. You've got anamorphic modes. It'll put up the different squeeze factors depending on what type of lens you're shooting with. Got 1.25, 1.33, 1.5, and even a 2. And then it's got the video aspect, which is nice. Right now I leave it on auto, and that's the way I'd probably leave it more times than not. That way it actually sees the signal coming from your camera and will automatically scale it. Then it has analytics here, which I use quite a bit. Right now I have focus peaking on, that's why you're seeing the red in the back, but you can turn that off. It's also got zebras and it's got false color. False color is another way to check your exposure, your overall image. And then another nice thing is you can swipe up and you've got a quick menu at the bottom. And so right now I have the marker on, but you could turn the marker off. You've got safety markers. Depending on what you're doing, you can do a 4.3 safety if you were shooting a different type of project. You can do 1.85, you can do 2.35. Let's say you're matching stuff into an anamorphic project, but you're shooting some of this in 16:9. And that way you would know where you're framing. You would not frame anything outside those lines. Another way to do that though, which is kind of cool, is to do it with a map. And so now there's a map that comes up, and so you can really focus where you want your image to be. That's a pretty cool feature. I like that quite a bit. And then you have false color and the other things down here at the bottom. And you have a grid. All those settings that were at the bottom, they're all over here as well in the main menu. That's like a quick menu, just to access things that you might go to on a regular basis. The touchscreen capabilities, you can turn those off as well. All you do, the power buttons on the side over here, all you do is you click it once, and now the touch is off. So now when I touch the screen, nothing goes. And I like that because that way you could make your settings and you don't accidentally hit the screen and turn something on or off that you don't want. Click it again, and now touch is back on. I showed how to adjust the brightness earlier with the touch. On this side, you can adjust the volume. So you can have HDMI audio coming in here, and that way you could do that for playback. And one thing that I didn't show that a lot of people like to have up, it really just depends on what you're doing, but you can turn audio meters on. And now there's the meters. I don't actually have Filmic Pro set up like that. Let me turn that on over here. Audio over HDMI. Now the audio coming from Filmic Pro is going into this. That can be really handy on my Sony a6400. One thing about that camera is it doesn't have a headphone jack. And so the nice thing about having a monitor that allows audio in and audio out is that you could be monitoring your video and your sound and put headphones into this. So that's something kind of small, but actually can be really useful. And if you don't want to use the touch screen, you can always just come up here and there's a menu button. And so you can go through the different menu settings with this dial. So that's an overview of the menu system, which for this price range of a monitor is very full featured. And so I just wanted to show the back of the monitor. You got nice labeling here, so you can quickly and easily see what you're going to plug into and what you're doing. Different DC inputs, HDMI out and HDMI in. It is nice that you can loop out of this into another monitor, like a client monitor or to another camera or recorder. And then you've got a headphone jack here on the side. And then this is the power switch. And then you've got 2 battery mounts. And by the way, it obviously does work with 1 battery, which is great. And then you've got 1/4-20 mounts on the 3 sides here. There's not one on top, which I do often like, because I like to mount monitors on arms hanging down sometimes. But since it comes with the swivel arm, that probably is why they didn't do it. And then this gap right here would be if there was SDI cables. This particular version does not have SDI. This is an HDMI only monitor. But the build quality is pretty good. It's plastic, but it does feel strong and it's very lightweight. The monitor without batteries only weighs about 1 pound. All right, let's talk the good things, what I like about this monitor. Well, one of the coolest features of this monitor is that it is daylight viewable. It works very well in the bright sun, and so That may be an obvious one, but it is probably my #1 reason to pick up this monitor. It works great in bright sun. And right there with it would be the price. Again, this is a very affordable monitor, especially for the feature set. I also like that it's lightweight. Makes it much easier to mount on a camera. Even with the battery on the back, it's easy to manage. I also like that it's a 4K monitor. Now, it's not a 4K screen resolution, but it accepts a 4K signal. The monitor is actually HD, and for this size monitor, that is more than fine. It's also nice that it has a DC output. That means you can connect the camera like a Blackmagic camera to the monitor and power it. Because oftentimes, especially like with the Blackmagic, their batteries do not last very long. So being able to piggyback the power off the monitor is really pretty great. Of course, it's not perfect though. While the back of the monitor is clearly labeled and it's easy to see, the inputs being on the bottom can cause some issues when you're tilting the monitor. It's also pretty tight when you have multiple things plugged in, or you're using the 1/4-20 mount on the bottom. Not the end of the world, but just something to be aware of. And while I like that the monitor is lightweight, and overall the build quality is good, but it being plastic, I'm just not sure what the longevity of the monitor will be, the wear and tear aspect. And the tilting arm is a great accessory, but it too is not the highest quality, I wouldn't say. And so when you're swiveling the monitor or when you're tightening it down, it can sometimes feel a little bit loose and almost flimsy. So that's just another thing to be aware of. And the last thing, and this is admittedly very picky, but the UI on the menu, the graphics, they seem a little bit dated to me. I think it needs a refresh just to make it look more contemporary. In the scheme of things though, these are all minor complaints because overall, this is a really good monitor, best bang for the buck that you're gonna get with this kind of professional feature set, and so I do recommend it. Thanks for watching guys, this is Blake Calhoun. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.